On March 21st, 1952, a group of engineers at Revox were obsessed with one thing: perfection. They wanted to eliminate noise. They wanted to kill hiss. As soon as something's on tape, it becomes a substance which is malleable and mutable and cuttable and reversible in ways that discs aren't. They were building the Revox A77 not as a musical instrument, but as a scientific tool designed to capture a symphony with zero distortion. They failed, and that failure accidentally invented the most important instrument in modern ambient music.
Electronics makes possible that you can record one part of a song, and then you can play it back to yourself, and then you can accompany that part and keep on recording.
See, the sound of ambient isn't just a melody. It's a physical side effect of 1950s tape technology. It's the sound of a machine struggling to hold onto a signal. This wasn't a digital choice. It was a mechanical necessity. Today we are looking at why the most futuristic sounds in your favorite soundtracks were actually created by a glitch that was supposed to be erased 70 years ago.
So he says, Ampex. Ampex. We get on the plane and go up there, and we go over to Ampex. And within 15 minutes of the meeting, it was a big yes. And that was when the whole world changed. And we said, okay, we're going to do that.
Before it was a mood, it was a hack. To understand this, we have to look at Les Paul. Most people know him for the guitar, but his real genius was time travel. I could use the tape recorder to do what I was doing with the 2-disc cutters if I could figure out how to do sound on sound on tape. And that's when it hit me. In the early 50s, he figured out that if you disabled the erase head on a tape machine, you could layer sound on top of sound. He called it sound on sound recording.
So he just couldn't understand me being two people, two very involved people, one in electronics. And so when I made sound on sound,
to the engineers of the time, this was a disaster. It was messy. It was unclean.
Other than the sound on sound, of all the hits we ever made, none were ever made on a multi-track machine.
Every time the tape passed the recording head, the previous layer would lose a bit of its high-frequency clarity. But something strange happened when you did this. Because it was physical tape, each layer wasn't a perfect copy. It was slightly darker, slightly more smeared. It didn't sound like a band. It sounded like the memory of a band. You weren't just hearing the music, you were hearing the degradation of time itself.
A whole new art form opened up. One, the art of capturing things on 8-track and how to use the 8 tracks.
Here is the technical secret that modern software still can't get right. Tape saturation. In a vintage Revox, there is a physical limit to how many magnetic particles the tape can hold.
Make a record, starting at A and moving slowly on to B.
Seriously?
Seriously,
All
on the
right.
level.
We turn the tape machines on. They're just a standard, regular Ampex tape machine.
When you push a signal too hard into that tape, the machine doesn't clip like a digital file. It gives up gracefully. It rounds off the sharp edges of the sound and adds a harmonic warmth that feels human to our ears. In the 50s, saturation was a mistake that engineers tried to hide. If you want vibe, warmth, soulfulness, things like that, you will always be drawn back to analog. In the 70s, it became a revolution, but it wasn't just about the warmth. It was also about the specific distance, the literal distance between the playback and the record heads. That gap created a delay that wasn't calculated by a computer, but by the speed of a motor. If the motor flickered, the pitch wobbled. That wobble is the DNA of every lo-fi beat you hear today. This is what I call the mad scientist era. Before these machines were portable, composers like Terry Riley were stretching tape across entire rooms. They were using what they called the time lag accumulator. He got it by stringing the tape between two tape recorders and feeding the signal from the second machine back to the first to recycle along with the new incoming signals. This wasn't a sleek studio setup, it was a labyrinth of tape reels held up by microphone stands and pencils.
I was doing a lot of work at the San Francisco Tape Music Center and at home with just a couple of cheap tape recorders, Wallensack tape recorders.
The length of the tape literally determined the length of the musical thought. If you wanted a 10-second echo, you need 30 feet of tape scratched into the hallway. It was architecture as much as it was music.
What you would be doing with instruments, and also running magnetic tape by hand, so running the tape across the tape machine using just different speeds.
When the Revox A77 arrived, it put that entire room into a box you could carry under your arm. Suddenly, you didn't need a lab. You didn't need a hallway full of tape. You just needed two machines and a single radical idea.
What I do is I get it running, and then I sit in the other room and I write or I read or do whatever I'm doing, and I'm listening all the time it's playing.
What happens if the music never stops? What happens if the background becomes the foreground? Ambient music must be able to accommodate many levels of listening attention without enforcing one in particular. It must be as ignorable as it is interesting. We live in a world of perfect digital loops. You can repeat a sound 1,000,000 times, it will never change. But that's exactly why it feels dead. Digital loops have no friction, they have no history. That dark step where nothing is real. The 1950s tape machine invented ambient because it was flawed. It added hiss, it added wow and flutter.
It was a way of going deeper into the sound. I also found that I became interested in the noise of these tape recorders, cheap tape recorders, and the noise of the sound buildup as you would, as you add layers of sound.
It added a soul to the silence by proving that sound like us is eventually supposed to fade away. The next time you listen to a relaxing ambient track, remember, you're actually listening to the sound of 1950s technology failing beautifully. And sometimes failure is exactly what the music needs to come alive.